If you look at the Indian subcontinent, it's crisscrossed by these incredible arteries of flowing water. And these aren't just rivers, right? They are the absolute lifelines that have shaped the land. They've nurtured entire civilizations, and they've written history for thousands of years. Today, we're going to trace the journey of these mighty river systems to really get a handle on their power and their current predicament. So let's start our journey way up high in the Himalayas. Just look at this. Look at how this river has literally sliced its way through solid rock over millions of years, carving out a path through the highest mountains in the world. This incredible force of nature, well, it's the perfect place to kick things off as we dive into India's vast and complex drainage system. Okay, before we go any further, let's get one key term straight, the drainage basin. Now think of it like a giant funnel. As you can see here, it's the entire area where all the rain, all the little streams, they all collect and flow down into one single main river. Seriously, getting this concept down is crucial for everything else we're about to talk about. So how do we even begin to make sense of the hundreds of rivers that are all over the country? Well, geographers have a pretty neat way of doing it. They split them into two major groups based on where they come from. And believe me, this simple divide tells a really fascinating story about the subcontinent's geology and its climate. In this slide, it just lays out that great divide perfectly. On the one side, you have the Himalayan rivers. They're perennial, meaning they flow all year round because they're fed by both monsoon rains and the constant melting snow from glaciers. But on the other side, you've got the Peninsular rivers. They're seasonal. Their flow is almost completely dependent on the monsoon, so they get huge during the rains and then shrink way down in the dry season. This one difference changes everything about them. So let's start our journey up in the north with the real giants, the ones born in the Himalayas. We're talking about three massive river systems that are, without a doubt, among the most important in the entire world. Our first giant is the Indus. If you follow its path on the map with me, you'll see it starts its journey way up in Tibet near the sacred lake Mansarawar. From there, it flows west through Ladakh in India, and then it takes a turn south through Pakistan before finally emptying out into the Arabian Sea. And the scale of the Indus is just staggering. 2,900 kilometers. That makes it one of the longest rivers on the planet. Just try to imagine that length of water, constantly moving, constantly carving through the landscape. It's a true testament to the power of water. But here's the thing. The Indus isn't just about geography. It's also about geopolitics. The river flows through multiple countries where water is, an incredibly precious resource. Because of something called the Indus Water Treaty, signed back in 1960, India can only use about 20% of the river's total water. This treaty makes the Indus a really crucial piece in the puzzle of regional diplomacy. Okay, from the Indus out in the west, let's turn to probably the most sacred river of them all, the Ganga. As we can see right here, it flows east, watering the huge, fertile northern plains that really form the heartland of India. Now here's a fascinating little detail. The river we all call the Ganga, well, it only actually gets that name at this exact spot, the sacred meeting point at Devaprayag. This is where two powerful streams, the Bhagirathi and the Alaknanda, merge into one. It's both its geographical and its spiritual starting point. Pretty cool, right? At the very end of its long journey to the sea, the Ganga doesn't finish alone. It actually joins up with another great river, the Brahmaputra, and together they form the Sundarban Delta, which happens to be the largest in the world. This huge maze of mangroves and marshes is a totally unique ecosystem. And yeah, it's the famous home of the Royal Bengal tiger. Our final Himalayan giant is the Brahmaputra, and its path is just incredible. Look at this map. Notice how it flows east across Tibet, running parallel to the Himalayas for so long. And then, bam, it makes this dramatic hairpin U-turn right around Namcha Barwa mountain to finally enter India through Arunachala Pradesh. When a river travels through so many different places, it's bound to pick up a few names. So in Tibet, it's known as the Sangpo, which means the purifier. Then, by the time it enters Bangladesh, its name changes to the Jamuna. All these different names just tell the story of the different cultures and landscapes it flows through. All right, let's leave the snow-capped peaks behind us and travel south to the ancient plateau of peninsular India. The rivers here tell a completely different story. It's a story that's not shaped by glaciers, but by seasonal monsoon rains and ancient, hard rock. This table lays it out really nicely. Most of the major peninsular rivers, like the Godavari and Krishna, flow east and drain into the Bay of Bengal. Because they travel over gentler slopes, they drop a lot of sediment and form these huge, fertile deltas where they meet the sea. In contrast, only a couple of major rivers, the Narmada and Tapi, flow west into the Arabian Sea. They cut through much steeper, rocky land, so instead of deltas, they form deep estuaries, these sort of funnel-shaped inlets where the river's fresh water crashes into the ocean's saltwater. And hey, while the Himalayan rivers are the undisputed giants, the peninsula has its own champion, the Godavari. It's the largest of all the peninsular rivers, and its massive drainage basin and cultural importance have earned it a special nickname, the Dakshin Ganga, or the Ganga of the South. So far, we've been talking all about the natural geography of these rivers, but we can't ignore the modern story, right? We have to talk about the intense relationship between these lifelines and India's growing population and economy. And as you can probably guess, this relationship is under some serious pressure. I mean, it is no exaggeration to say that rivers are the engine of India's economy. They water the fields that feed over 1 billion people, their power is captured for electricity, and they serve as vital transport routes. From the tiniest farm to the biggest city, their role is just absolutely fundamental. And that, of course, brings us to the critical question we have to ask ourselves in the 21st century. What's the price of all this dependence? What happens when the demands we put on these ancient lifelines just become too much to bear? Well, this slide breaks down the vicious cycle pretty clearly. First, we're draining more and more water out of the rivers, which reduces their flow. Then, at the same time, we're dumping a heavy load of untreated waste back into them. The result? The river's natural ability to clean itself just gets overwhelmed, and the water quality absolutely plummets. Now, the good news is that this problem has been on the radar for decades. As this timeline shows, serious conservation efforts really kicked off with the Ganga Action Plan way back in 1985. Then, a decade later, that plan was expanded into the National River Conservation Plan, which was a big step because it acknowledged that this was a nationwide challenge that needed a nationwide solution. And that really brings us to where we are today, at this critical crossroads. These rivers have flowed for eons, shaping the very land we live on. But their future now, it depends completely on the choices we make today. They are ancient lifelines, and their survival is going to require some bold, modern choices. The only question left is, what will those choices be?